and she met a lot of my friends from the industry, and everybody had a blast meeting her and getting her book and reading it. So I would recommend that. Great, welcome to another session at Food for Thought. I'm Rini Chatterjee, and I'm honored to be moderating this conversation with somebody I have long admired, Ms. Susan Jung. Susan Jung has been shaping the way Asia talks about food for decades. From her 25 years as food and drinks editor at the South China Morning Post, to her role as Academy Chair for Asia's 50 Best Awards, to her current column at Vogue Hong Kong, and now the author of Kung Pao and Beyond. Woof! That's quite a body of work. I think that needs a great round of applause. Come on. Her writing is crisp, bold, and full of fire, much like her favorite subject, fried chicken. As a culinary curator and food writer from India, I've spent the last 15 years working across storytelling, chef collaborations. And at this very moment in India, we are seeing an exciting movement of identity-led dining and hyper-local flavors taking center stage. So I'm particularly interested in today's conversation with Susan. All right, so how did you get pulled towards food writing in the first place? I'm sure a lot of people have asked you this question.
Can you hear me? I've always loved food. I grew up in a Chinese-American household in California, and my family loved to eat. My grandparents were great cooks. My parents were great cooks. And we would start talking about the next meal while we're eating the current meal. And it's because I learned a lot from my mother and from my mom and dad and from my grandmother, who would cook. I would learn a lot from my parents and my grandparents just by watching them cook. And when I was quite young, my grandmother would have me help out in the kitchen. She cooked for 25 people every Saturday dinner and every Sunday lunch. It was the extended family. And so I was helping out when I was quite young, when I was tall enough to reach the stove. One of the first things that she taught me how to make was fried chicken. And she served it with spaghetti. So for the longest time, I thought fried chicken and spaghetti were a logical combination because that's what I grew up eating. And then when I started cooking for my friends and I would make fried chicken, they'd say, "Why are we eating it with spaghetti?" And I just thought it was normal. But apparently in the United States, they eat it with macaroni and cheese and other things and coleslaw. But I grew up eating it with spaghetti. So anyway, I loved food ever since I was very small. And when I was in high school, a girlfriend and I were talking, and she said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a food editor." And I became a food editor, and I'm still surprised about that. It worked out. I didn't actually think it would work out when I was young, but it worked out, and I'm really pleased about that.
You know, that's incredible, because how many times it has happened that what you've said as a kid that you want to become when you grow up, and you actually do that. So I think that is really inspiring that you kind of pursued it fully, you know. How did your time at the South China Morning Post shape your voice, and when did you finally decided, you know what, it's time to write my first book?
Well, having the job as food editor for the South China Morning Post is the best job in Hong Kong. I loved my job. It was so much fun. I basically got paid to eat, and I really love to eat. So I was getting paid to do what I love to do. But then, after 25 years, I was writing a column about a recipe column that came out every week in the Post magazine, and I actually had to stop myself from writing too many fried chicken recipes because I thought not everybody likes fried chicken like I do. So I would allow myself to write a fried chicken recipe once, just every few months. And then one of my colleagues said, "Susan, your fried chicken recipes do really well online." And he said, "Why don't you write a book on fried chicken?" And he laughed. He just said it as a joke. And I said, "Well, that's a great idea." And so I sent off to a couple of publishers, and one of them said yes. And they said, do a little bit more research, because are there any fried chickens on East and Southeast, fried chicken books on East and Southeast Asia? So I looked it up on Amazon, which is a really logical place to look. And there were no books on fried chicken from East and Southeast Asia. So I said, no, there's nothing. And they said, okay, go ahead and write it. So I quit my job at the, no, I signed the contract and then I quit my job because I just wanted to make sure that I had something lined up. And then it was very difficult quitting my job at the SCMP because I was thinking, will I still be relevant? Will people still be interested in, in me as a food writer if I'm not writing for a major publication? And it's actually brought me so much joy because I'm invited to do fried chicken in Singapore, fried chicken, I'm being interviewed. I was on television in California. I mean, it's really opened up a lot of doors, and I'm so grateful to it.
That's a great answer. Guys, we need to applaud the fact that A, she listened to a friend on a whim, but she waited till she signed the contract before quitting her job.
That's the way to do it, right? Because you want to make sure you have something, your next thing lined up.
Because a lot of, the current generation think it's cool to say, I'll follow my passion. But the responsible thing to sometimes do is figure out the future a little bit before doing that. That's a great point you made. And I'm so glad that it worked out in your favor and opened doors for you. While doing the research for your book, what version or cultural interpretation of fried chicken surprised you the most?
Well, what surprised me most about fried chicken in general is that almost every culture has fried chicken. I originally wanted to do the book on all of Asia, and I realized the subject is way too big. Plus, there are a lot of countries in Asia, all of Asia, that I've not been to, and I want it to be about, I didn't want to just appropriate a recipe looking at it online. I wanted to actually taste it. And so I also learned that everybody's passionate about fried chicken. I haven't met anybody who doesn't like fried chicken. So it's a subject that is, fried chicken is, chicken in general is universal. There's no meat-eating cultures that have any kind of prohibition about chicken. There's no religious prohibitions, the only people who don't eat it are vegetarians. So it's a subject that everybody can appreciate. And when I was at the Jaipur Lit Fest and I was meeting, Nobel Prize-winning authors, I was meeting really important people, and we were talking about their subject, and they would say to me, oh, what's your subject? And I'd be a little bit embarrassed, and I'd say, fried chicken. And then they would be really interested in it. As long as they ate meat, they were interested in it. But I was a little bit embarrassed. I was actually extremely embarrassed to say that, my subject is fried chicken. But it's what got me into the Lit Fest, and it's what brought me here.
That's very refreshingly honest that you said that when the Nobel Prize authors were meeting you and you were nervous about the subject. It came from such an honest place because, even you who's had a vast body of work and go through that syndrome where you're like, is my subject interesting enough? And then you're surprised because you said, overwhelmingly, globally, everybody loves a good fried chicken.
I just thought it was so trivial compared to them. But everybody has to eat, and if you're going to eat, you might as well eat what you like to eat. I don't diet because I believe in everything in moderation. And I love instant noodles, I love fried chicken, I love crabs. I eat a lot of things that my cardiologist would probably say, Susan, you should stop. But I really don't care because, life is short. I could be hit by a car tomorrow. So I might as well eat what I like to eat.
Thank you for practicing what you preach. That's great. So writing it's a fine balance between criticism and storytelling sometimes, especially when you talk about something so subjective as food. So how do you find that balance?
Before I became a food writer, I was a chef. I was a pastry chef. So I have a lot of experience in the kitchen, and I really do know what I'm talking about. When I was a pastry chef, I would go and hang out in the savory kitchen just to watch what the cooks were doing there, and I learned a lot from them. So when people say, if I give a negative review, which isn't very often, And I have received emails from people saying, well, what do you know? Do you know what you're talking about? And I'd say, yes, I actually do. I don't give very many negative reviews because I put myself in their shoes. Unless, if it's a mom and pop kind of restaurant, I would rather just not write about it. If I can't say anything nice, I won't write about it. You know, if it's a middling review where some things are good and some things are not good, I will write about that, and it's very balanced. But if it's nothing I can say that's positive, I just won't write about it, unless it's a big name chef, like when Gordon Ramsay opened in Hong Kong. I thought that was fair game. He's a big name chef. He can take the hits, but I just won't do it if it's somebody's livelihood. It's just not a nice thing to do.
Thank you for sharing that you know, what you write can actually make and break someone's career if he's starting out. And that's very incredibly generous and also responsible, you know, as a food writer for you to do. So thank you for sharing that perspective with us. What role do you think vulnerability play in your work? Do you think when you are open and you are vulnerable in your pieces, what you write, do you think the readers connect with it more? Do you think there's a instant emotional connect, like, hey, oh, we feel this too?
Well, when I took journalism classes, most of the times they teach you from a news writer's perspective, which is be dispassionate, don't insert yourself into the piece. Don't use I, we, use the third person. So I used to write like that, very dispassionate. And then when I started writing recipes, I can't be dispassionate because it's my recipe. It is personal, so how can I not be personal about it? So I would start off by writing little anecdotes about myself or about my background or something, and it got a lot of positive feedback. And then my husband, who's actually my biggest fan, and I really appreciate him for that, he started saying, Susan, you really need to put yourself more in these pieces because they are you. And so I started doing it a little bit more and a little bit more. I try not to overdo it and give like, you know how some of the food writers in England, they write a 1,000-word review and 800 words about it is about themselves, and then they say, oh, by the way, the food was good. I don't do that, but I do put a little bit of myself in there, and I do think it's important, for a cookbook especially.
That's a great point you mentioned about people writing a lot about themselves first. I'm sure a lot of you see when you go through a recipe blog on a website and you want to get to the recipe, there's like 5 paragraphs before the recipe where they talk about, you know, how they got there without not giving anything out. So it's quite frustrating. So I know what you mean. Tell me, you know, in 2025, food writing has evolved in many ways because of different formats. What do you think is a food writer's responsibility today, especially in Asia?
Well, I think it's to be honest. If I don't like a meal, I'm no longer writing. I write a column for Vogue, but that's just about where I've eaten and traveled, and but it's not really food criticism. I think you do need to be honest, but you can choose your honesty. Like I said, if I don't like a restaurant, I won't write about it. So you won't know that I've had bad meals in certain places. But when I write about a restaurant that I do like, I hope that I write the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, because that's important. You know, if you say only positive things, then are they really going to believe you? And you do need credibility, and I think I have the credibility. Not everybody has the credibility, and I think a lot of times they just want influencers who have 1 million followers. They invite them to a meal, and they only write about, like, I had this, but they don't give any words about, was it good or was it bad? So I think you do need to write about whether it's good or bad.
Fair point. But Susan, do you, like you said, you don't write about the negative experience, right? But do you give feedback to the restaurateur or the chef? Would you do that personally?
If they ask. They don't always ask. They just think of me as a bum on the seat sometimes. They just want to fill the restaurant. They're hoping that I will write something positive. But I haven't had any really, really bad meals lately. I mean, I can't think of any meals where I just think, oh my gosh, this is disgusting.
That's because you're passionate about food. But has everyone eaten a little bit in the audience? Are your stomachs full? Because I'm going to ask a lot of like food-heavy questions, and then I know you will be very frustrated because you'll be hungry and salivating. I'm going to ask Susan what has been her best meal in the most recent times.
Well, I ate at Locavore Next yesterday, which was really, really amazing. It's not just the food; it's the space. It's a magical space. It's just very green. It's something so unlike anything we ever get in Hong Kong, because in Hong Kong's rent is really expensive. We won't have a standalone restaurant like that. That is such a really, it's in the middle of nowhere. Well, not in the middle of nowhere. I know it seems to me in the middle of nowhere, but it's quite far away. And is it really far away?
Not really.
No, okay.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it just seems like isolated because it's there's paddy fields, rice paddy fields around, and there's egrets and birds, and I just love sitting there. It's really beautiful during the day, even though they say they prefer it at night, but it's just so sunny and beautiful, and I just really love it.
So Susan is talking about Locavore Next. It's Indonesia's hottest restaurant right now, and they've got a lot of global recognition in the recent past. If you haven't been there already, you must check it out. And from the same group, they have multiple other formats and bars, etc. So it's worth checking out. And she's right. It's so spacious. They got their own mushroom farming going on. There's paddy fields. The food is something very different. I have booked myself a meal on tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. So I think I would recommend that.
If you can't go there, go to their other restaurant, Nusantara. Fantastic. I love that restaurant. It's more home style, but I really love that, and I'm hoping to go on this trip.
Great, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask you a question I think I'm sure you're sick of answering. What do you really think about food trends and things trending on Instagram Reels and becoming a movement?
Some of them are really don't make sense. I won't say they're stupid, even though I'm thinking stupid. Okay, I love fried chicken and I love caviar. I don't know if they go together because does one enhance the other? To me, no. I'd rather eat, my favorite way of eating caviar, if I'm lucky enough to have it, is on potato chips. It's just delicious and it's so simple. Everybody has potato chips, right? Caviar and potato chips are really delicious together. But for me, if you're going to eat caviar with fried chicken, it's going to cancel out somewhere. Probably the fried chicken would overwhelm the caviar, unless you're having huge gobs of caviar, which is a really nice way to eat it, but nobody can afford that. But it's just sort of canceling each other out. I would rather eat caviar and fried chicken separately. But there's also this trend, and I find it really annoying, towards authenticity. And who's to dictate what is authentic? Is the food that my grandmother cooked in the United States inauthentic because she was using ingredients that she couldn't find Chinese ingredients in the United States, back then? It doesn't make it inauthentic. It's authentic to her. So authenticity is authentic. It's authentic to the person making the food. There's something different from being non-traditional and saying, oh, it's Chinese food, but it's actually not traditional Chinese food. That's something entirely different. But authenticity and inauthenticity is really hard. It's a really hard line. And I don't think people should dictate what it is.
Fair point. And like you said, who's to question what our grandmom and mothers made? Interestingly, somebody at the festival 2 days ago, there's a lady who runs Bali Food. Christina, do you remember her name? Who runs Bali Food? No, Sonia? Okay, so she runs, she's not from Indonesia, and she runs this incredible page called Bali Food. She told me that the best Indian food in Bali is cooked by a Scottish chef. Okay, and I was like, what now? Because, I'm very possessive about my cuisine. So I said, really? So she said, it's so good and it's authentic. Now, I know better to question and say, oh, how is it authentic? Because he came to Bali, he learned to cook, he followed the recipes, and he made a great dish that people like. Indians are liking it. So it makes it authentic, right? So you said a very good thing by saying that who are we to question or dictate? But one thing really bugs me a lot these days, and thanks to Instagram, everything's now a hidden gem. If I had like $1 every time I heard that about a place that's been there for like decades, but suddenly like a 21-year-old Instagrammer will call it a hidden gem. How do you think we can control this narrative a little bit as senior writers?
That has been going on forever. I remember I was using a columnist, or she was a writer when I was at the SCMP, and she said, I just discovered a new dish, dan dan min. Dan dan min has been going on for a really long time, and there's so many different versions of it. I emailed her and I said, it's not a new dish. Just because you discovered it doesn't mean that it's new. That kind of bothers me. Just because you discover it doesn't make it new. It's like people saying, oh, I discovered dumplings. Dumplings are universal to so many cultures. It's not like, and also like, there's another thing with authenticity. They might say that it's inauthentic to like momos are inauthentic, but it's not. It's spread. It's spread everywhere, right? So that really irritates me.
Thank you for sharing that openly. So, in India, every 25 kilometers, the food changes, the language changes, the climate changes. It's crazy how dynamic and versatile it is. And currently, India has so many people. The population is insane. So you'll have all these crops of new food content creators who will identify a small hole-in-the-wall mom-and-pop spot and call it a hidden gem. And suddenly there'll be a surge of people going there. Now, one would think, oh, great for the business, but then they don't want it. They are overwhelmed by it. They don't want people to go there. So I think you're right when you say that if someone discovered something great for them, but they can choose to communicate it that way instead of saying, oh, this is a hidden gem.
There's a restaurant in Bangkok called J-Fi, which is a crab omelette place. Years ago, whenever I went to Bangkok, we'd eat dinner and we'd be wondering what to do, and I'd say, oh, let's go and eat crab omelette. And we'd go to J-Fi and eat crab omelette. And you would just walk in. And then Michelin got their hands on it, and I'm so annoyed with them. They gave them a star. And she's a 70-year-old little old lady. She's smaller than me. She wears goggles. She wears pink Wellington boots. She wears jewelry. And she makes these delicious crab omelettes. But Michelin, ever since Michelin wrote about it, there's been queues, and you cannot get in unless you want to line up. And it's really annoying. So yeah, I sometimes wish people would keep quiet about things.
That's really ironic coming from a food writer, but she's absolutely right. There's a food writer, I'm sure you of course know her because you've worked with her, Evelyn in Singapore. Evelyn runs a page called Baby Gourmand, and she actually often puts amazing places in Singapore to dine at, never puts the location. And she says, do not DM me. I'm not going to tell you where this is. So I get where that comes from. Where do you see food media evolving in the next 5 years or so?
Well, it's really incredible because 20 years ago when I, was with the SCMP, I didn't see the online thing happening to be so big. And that happened, and now everything is online. The SCMP was really late to having the newspaper online, but I kept saying to them, we really should be online. Our site was like extremely amateur, but now it's grown bigger than the newspaper. More people read the SCMP online, so it's really hard to say how much bigger anything can get than online. I don't know how how it can evolve even more. But then, 20 years ago, I didn't have a mobile phone. I'm really late to the game. I only went on WhatsApp last year. So I don't know. I mean, I'm probably the worst person to ask, not because I'm in a little bit of a technophobe, but I'm not very tech savvy.
Fair point. Susan, do you think, what's your take? I had asked this question in the last session. What's your take on AI being used to create content? Especially a lot of new age freelance writers are using AI to write stories.
Unfortunately, I think it's unstoppable. This writer that I know, a freelance writer, she wrote a piece for the SCMP. This was this was quite recently. And then, so it wasn't under my editorship. But then she emailed me and she said, Susan, this publication wrote an article that's just like mine. And she sent it to me and I said, yeah, it's exactly like yours. And I know it was AI written. They just took her content and changed a few words here and there. And I'm really annoyed for her. But I think it's unstoppable. And I think if the editors are not on it, if they're not watching out, this is going to happen more and more.
Very right, and I think it doesn't happen a lot in India, and I hope it does, and I hope it happens here too. I think there are now tools to figure if a piece is written by AI, right? There are tools to figure that out. I think we need to have technology applied at the base levels, at editorial offices, so that this is kind of controlled a little bit. Though I feel that yes, great. I mean, positive use of AI is wonderful, but this is plagiarism. This is complete copy. So I think if we can stick to tools and kind of develop the way we are looking at new stories with that lens, we'll be able to control that. Anything else you want to share?
Well, I know that it's happening in schools and professors and even teachers in the lower grades are trying to figure out how to teach their students not to use it, but they're still using it. To me, it's as bad as plagiarizing any other article, plagiarizing a book. You're plagiarizing something, and they shouldn't be doing that. And right now, I think professors are trying to figure it out, and I think everybody else has to figure it out.
Somebody mentioned in my last session that AI has now become like a personal therapist. People are putting in their life questions on it and expecting AI to guide them. I have been told to keep more time for Q&A for this session because I know a lot of you will have questions for Susan. So I'll keep my questions brief. And a quick fire round with you, Susan. Easy, fun answers only. Best fried chicken you've ever eaten? You have to be honest.
Mom's. It's the first recipe in my book.
Mom's wings, right?
Mom's wings. Because it brings me back. When I taste it, I think of my mother. And I cooked it for her last year. And she saw the book, but I don't think she realized that her recipe's in the book. And I cooked it for her, and she said, oh, this tastes like mine. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be her recipe.
That is so incredibly sweet as a story. Okay, apart from your mom's, which is your next favorite?
Fast food fried chicken would be Jollibee. I love Jollibee. It's really good, but apparently it's different in every region. So Hong Kong Jollibee is excellent, and in other countries I've heard it's not as delicious. But then I really don't like KFC in Hong Kong, and I was in India in a regional airport, and I saw KFC, so I bought KFC, and it was really, really good. Very spicy, but very yummy. And then I also love convenience store fried chicken in Japan because it's just very consistent. They do it in a central kitchen, I'm sure, but it's also really good and really cheap. At Family Mart, yeah.
I know it's one of those questions which have so many different responses because even in India, every region has their own fried chicken. And you're right about the KFC being spicy there because they use a slightly different version of the recipe. We'll come to the audience as well to know what regions are you from and what kind of fried chicken do you like. Okay, most overrated food trend.
Well, I already mentioned the caviar and fried chicken. I think, sorry? No, I think there's this trend towards people wanting to make everything from scratch and scolding you if you don't. I think that's a terrible thing because not everybody has the time to make everything from scratch. If you can, great for you, good on you, but not everybody has the time. There's a lot of pressure to take a lot of time and also to use only top ingredients. If you can't afford top ingredients, should you feel ashamed? No. So in my book, I said, when I was writing about what chicken to use, I said, in an ideal world, I would tell you to use free-range chicken, free-range local chicken. But free-range local chicken, no matter where you are, is expensive. But if you look in newspapers, recipe columns in the UK, they will always say, use free-range eggs. Not everybody can afford free-range eggs. I said in the book, use what you can afford. I said I tested most of the recipes with frozen chicken. I said I bought hormone-free and no added hormones and no antibiotics. But if you can't afford that, don't use it. Use what you can afford. And I think that's really important. Use what you can afford.
Thank you. That's a great point. Use what you can afford, and you don't have to really build everything from scratch. I don't know about all of you, and Susan, there's a new trend going on on Instagram called the trad wife. And I saw this video that blew my mind, and I wanted to cry because I could never. So it showed a reel where the husband said he wanted some chocolate brownies, and that lady legit started growing like cacao. And the first scene is she's literally like growing the cacao plant. I'm like, okay, this is too much. It's gone too far. And then I deep dived and I saw this is a whole trend. Yeah. The trad wife, which is insane. Like, grow your chicken and then they'll go to the fried chicken recipe. It's crazy, but yeah. I mean, cook what you can afford is a great tip. One dish you will never get tired of writing about. I know fried chicken, but apart from that.
Well, that I'm tired of, that I would
you
never
won't, be tired of.
Oh, I haven't written enough about my favorite food other than fried chicken, which is crab. I would love to write a book on crab just because I really love crabs, and I think there's so many different ways of cooking it. I probably wouldn't ever write a book about crab because it's considered very high-end, and I want to write about things that can be afforded. I would love to write a book on noodles, although there's a million noodle books out there. But I would love to write a book on noodles just because there's so many things that haven't been covered yet.
So many variations. Yesterday we were attending a session with Chef Bon, and there were some other incredible people on the panel. They were talking about the best fried rice in the world. And like you said, like there's so many books about it. And yet they came up with different things that they're doing regionally. So noodles, if not fried chicken. What could be your dream dinner table? Like, who is sitting and what's being served?
Okay, I was supposed to have 2 husbands in my life, but they died before they met me. One was Prince, the singer. I love Prince, and I'm his size. So Prince was supposed to be my husband, except he died. Yes, yeah. I was supposed to be a widower twice over. And Joe Strummer of The Clash. I don't know if anybody of you remember The Clash because I'm very old. But Joe Strummer was supposed to be my first husband. Prince was supposed to be my second husband. So I would love to have my 2 ex-husbands, whatever they're called, at the dinner table. I know a lot of people would say Anthony Bourdain, but I don't know because he's so opinionated, and I think he would just take over the conversation. Who else? Can I think? I suppose I should have my husband, my current husband. Even though my current husband, doesn't like food. I mean, he likes to eat, but he doesn't like a lot of things. So I keep a list of foods he doesn't like. No, I don't know if I want him at the table because then I'd have to restrict what I served. Who else would I like?
Anybody who is alive? Like Susan's all bringing up the dead people.
No, but they haven't met me yet. They could have stayed alive a little bit longer.
Okay. And what's being served at that table?
Okay, I suppose I would ask them what they like to eat. Whenever I do a dinner party, if I'm cooking, I cook for my guests. Just because, so if my husband were there, I would cook for him. Okay, my husband could be at the dinner table too. But I cook for my guests because they're the most important thing. They are, you have one thing to do when you're having a dinner party, and that's to feed your guests enough food and feed them food that they like. So I would probably tailor the meal around my husband, which would mean no innards, no caviar, no asparagus. He has a list of, no oysters, no raw foods. So it would be, yeah, he's really, really difficult. So I suppose it would be food that he likes, but I would make it as well as I can.
That's a great answer. But what I love most about this chat was Susan referring to her only husband as current husband.
I mean,
Has so many.
husband.
Is he in the audience today? Oh, that's why. This will be our closing question, and after that we'll take questions from you. I would recommend none of you leave the audience after this, because I want a photo with Susan and all of you, because a chat is as fun as the audience gets. If you have to leave us with one thought for the young writers, chefs, and curious eaters in the room, what would it be? If you could leave us with one thought for the young writers, chefs, and curious eaters in the room, what would it be?
I would say eat what you love to eat and do what you can. It can't always make money. Not everybody wants to, a lot of people want to be writers, but not everybody can be a writer. A lot of people just aren't talented. But just because you're not making money about it doesn't mean you can't do it. Just do it for yourself.
That is such a profound point, and great round of applause, everyone, because how many times have we done something for the others or our parents, or to look good, or to look, or to be respected or loved, but do it for yourself, like she said. Susan's books are right behind you if you want to buy them, and she'll sign it for you. Okay, questions. I know a lot of people I've met since yesterday have said they want to attend your session. So I hope they have some interesting questions for you. I'm going to come to you. You can raise your hand. Questions? Short question?
What's your view on MSG?
I use MSG. A lot of people say they're allergic to it. I think if it's overused, it can affect you. But the MSG myth has been disproven. The person who was supposedly a study. It was in some medical journal a while ago. By this man who had an Asian name, saying that whenever he ate at Chinese restaurants, he felt ill, and they identified it as this thing called Chinese restaurant syndrome. They've done double-blind studies where they've fed some people MSG, other people a placebo, or whatever it's called, and there was no reaction to the people who ate MSG. To me, it was really racist, especially the fact that he used an Asian name, trying to make it sound plausible. And that really irritates me. So a lot of people who say they're allergic to MSG, they wouldn't be able to eat Parmesan, tomatoes, peas. There's a lot of ingredients where the glutamates occur naturally. MSG is 99.9% pure. If it's made right. And so to say that you're allergic to it means you wouldn't be able to eat a lot of things. It occurs in mother's milk. It occurs in meats. So I would really like people to go into MSG with an open mind. And it's also in bouillon cubes. It's in so many things. They use it, they call it natural yeast extract. It's on potato chips. And so to say you are allergic to it, I don't know if you really are.
Thank you. That's a great point. I actually did not know that mother's milk had MSG. Wow, that is...
It's a glutamate.
Yeah, so, okay. Oh, great. That's a great learning for me. Any questions from aspiring, yes, food writers or anybody at all?
So similarly to MSG, what do you think about gluten? Gluten.
Oh, I love gluten. I love breads. I love wheat. I love wheat, which is where I guess most of it comes from. I think some people are allergic to gluten, or they have a sensitivity. I can't say anything bad because it doesn't happen to me, and I'm very fortunate about that. But if I did have a gluten intolerance, I'd be bereft because I think, what am I going to eat? I can't eat bread. I can't eat a lot of other things. I can't eat cakes. I was a pastry chef. How can I make pastries without gluten, without wheat flour?
Imagine life without bread.
Or pasta.
Oh my God, or pasta. I mean, and I find it, I don't know, I should not be saying that in a public forum, but I find it very crazy that people actually choose to be gluten-free while they're not allergic to it. And I'm like, what? Do you not like living life? Like, what's your problem? Anybody else? Any questions for Susan? Okay, if there's no question, I'm going to ask you a question. I know you all are from different parts of the world. What is your favorite version of the fried chicken? Come on, I want show of hands. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Nasi Padang fried chicken. So West Sumatran fried chicken.
Do you want to?
No skin.
Oh, okay.
No skin. No, skin is the best part.
Skin is the crispy skin is everything.
Yes.
West Sumatran don't eat any skin.
Oh no.
Okay.
Can you give it to me?
Is it here yet? Ada nasi padang nggak di sini?
Nasi Padang.
In the event? Yeah. Are there any West Sumatran food here? Oh, okay.
There.
But if it's without the skin, that's half the pleasure.
Who else? Yes. Yes. What's your favorite fried chicken version?
Japanese karage.
That's a good one. Anybody else? Come on, you go. Yes.
Korean fried chicken with gochujang sauce.
Oh, yum. Oh, I'm getting hungry now.
Can I be the Indonesian representative?
Of
We have
course.
this like yellow fried chicken, like ayam ungkep. That's my favorite.
Okay, great. Anybody else? What's your favorite fried chicken?
Maybe from Bali. It's like called ayam lengkuas and ayam betutu. Maybe
Can
the
you
same
please tell me
one.
where to eat it here? Because I really want to eat it here.
Sure.
Please tell
sure,
me. Thank you.
I will send you later.
Whoever said what their favorite fried chicken is, it's your moral responsibility to write it down for Susan. And where she can eat it, you'll have to do this for her. Anybody else? Some opinions from the other part of the world? Non-Asian countries? Anybody here? What's your favorite fried chicken? Come on, I'm sure you have one. Yes, what is yours? Pass the mic to the gentleman. I'm very persuasive. I'll ask you questions.
My mom's nuggets from France.
Oh.
I thought they didn't eat fried chicken in France.
It's like, how do we say? We put some additional condiments around the chicken, put it in the oil for like 5 or 10 minutes, and yeah, that's it.
I'd love to try that.
You should.
That sounds great. And what do you eat? Yes, your turn.
Before I tell my favorite chicken from my country, I had a question. If you have the extended experience with Europe, I'm from Europe, maybe the best country in Europe for chicken. How?
When did Brexit occur? Because when the UK was part of the EU, I would say that England has really good fried chicken, but that's because they have so many different cultures making fried chicken. I don't know what other countries in Europe make really good fried chicken. Where are you from in Europe?
Portugal.
Oh, I
And
would
the
love to go there.
Best chicken I ever had is the south of Portugal, and this is the tiny chicken, tiny. So you eat not just skin, but all bones are crispy and fantastic. And they have a secret recipe for the sauce they made, and it's not known, like whiskey and some spices and chili. So please come to Portugal.
I need to try. I need to go to
Yes.
Portugal for one thing because I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go.
Yeah.
But I need to try that chicken. It sounds
Thank you
delicious.
very much.
Thank you.
That was a great insight. Thank you. So you eat the bones as well, you said. Oh, wow. Okay. That's some commitment to fried chicken.
How big are those chickens? How big? Like, wow. So you fry the whole thing? Oh. I need to try that.
All right.
Sounds fantastic.
I have a question for you. So, mom's fried chicken nuggets, what do you eat it with in France? Like ketchup, like the rest of the world?
Besides the fried chicken, my mom make homemade mayonnaise.
Oh, okay.
So basically, yeah, with mayonnaise.
He's going hard on the homemade. Yes. Anybody else? Any questions or any fun facts about fried chicken or any questions for Susan? She has a question. You guys are just shy. I know all of you have a question.
I remember meeting a friend she was Chinese, and we had a cultural thing because she said, I really loved chicken fingers when I was younger. And she was like, what? Really, when you were younger? And I was like, yeah, they were just these sticks of minced meat and then fried. And she meant the real chicken feet. Yeah, so that was a funny thing.
So have you tried Chinese chicken feet?
Yeah, this week, actually. Well, it was cooked in a soup, so it was soft, so not crunchy. Not really my thing. But
you should try it steamed with a black bean sauce or something. It's really, really good. It has a lot of flavor.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's basically skin.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't like it.
I love how this has become like a great interactive session with everyone sharing their bits. Anybody else wants to add to the conversation? I think it's only fair that it's a subject close to everyone's heart. So anybody wants to...
Is there anybody who doesn't like fried chicken? I would love to know, and I would love to know your mindset. Is there anybody, just be honest, we won't interrogate you too much.
She'll just block you after.
Please, if there's...
I have a habit because I like to eat at midnight snack. And I would buy Jollibee fried chicken and then take it home. I won't eat it and put it in the freezer or the fridge. And I like my fried chicken cold.
Fried chicken cold is delicious. Okay, I tested 90 recipes for this book. I was eating fried chicken every day for 3 months. I cooked it at least once a day. And what do you do with, at the very beginning, I was testing only like 500 grams at a time. And then towards the end, when I realized which recipes I wanted to use, I was testing a kilo of chicken at a time. And so you're left over with a lot of fried chicken. I was giving a lot of it away, but also it makes a great snack. Fried chicken as a snack is the best, and it doesn't have to be hot. Everybody thinks fried chicken has to be hot. It's not true. Yeah, cold fried chicken is good, but...
That's a revelation for me, cold fried chicken. Wow. Okay.
It's like some people, they make fun of cold pizza. Cold pizza can be really good.
The Padang fried chicken is served cold. It's served cold. It doesn't hot.
We have the hot fried chicken lovers, the cold fried chicken lover, and she had a question. I think none of you had the balls to say yes. Who doesn't like fried chicken here? Everybody does? And then why are you not answering my question? What's your favorite fried chicken? Caught you there. Yes, the lady in the white t-shirt. What's your favorite fried chicken? That's you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yes. Japanese fried chicken. I think there's
Karaage. There's recipe in the book.
I have a question before we wrap this up. And before we leave, I want all of you to stand here with Susan, and we're going to say fried chicken as loudly as we can. And we're going to take it on video so she can take it back with her as a memory from the festival. How many times do you test each recipe before they make it to the book?
I tested the recipes at least twice. First, like I said, using a small amount, 500 grams of chicken. And then when I realized which recipes, because there was some overlap, so I started off with 90, cut it down to 60. And when I realized, oh, this recipe is too similar to this recipe is better, I would start working on that recipe. And so I tested them at least twice, some of them more if they weren't perfect. So yeah, we were eating a lot of fried chicken. I'm really curious. I would love to have. I wish I had kept track of how much chicken I used in how many chickens died to make my book.
Sacrifice. But I love the fact that your family actually had to eat so much fried chicken over the course of writing this book.
My poor husband was in quarantine. At the time, Hong Kong had mandatory hotel quarantine. If you left Hong Kong and you came back, you would have to quarantine because of COVID. And he was stuck in quarantine for 3 weeks. And every day I was bringing him fried chicken because I was writing the book. And one day he said to me, I think after 2 weeks, he said, I just want to make sure, are you making fried chicken? And I said, yes. And he said, I don't want fried chicken. And I said, but darling, this recipe is really good. And he said, I don't want fried chicken. Because, you know, when you're in quarantine, the only thing you have to look forward to is what you're eating. And he really did not want fried chicken. So poor boy.
But that's really supportive of your family to, you know, go through these many recipes. Susan, yes, ma'am. 5 minutes left. Okay, great. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. I've been dreaming about this day since I got to know that I'll be interviewing you. And of course, all the, you know, stories I heard from my friends back in India. I'll be honest, I was very nervous in the beginning, but it was a very fun chat. Thank you for sharing your experience about the book, about your journey as an author.
Thank you, and thank you all.
So thank you for being a great participative audience. I really appreciate that. Everyone, please stand up.